Yo, what is good, everybody? My name is Logan. Today, this is not the dorm room sports pod. It's the bedroom sports pod. Happy spring break. Roll the intro. All right. As you guys can see, it's just me today. Spring break, singers in Florida, so it's just me bringing you guys a video. Still gonna be a banger though. We got 4 mini segments. So we have Let's Talk About a Game. That's a segment where I talk about a game that happened for me yesterday, for you guys a couple days ago. Then our next segment, Ask DRSP. That's our Q&A segment. So I'm gonna be talking about some questions that you guys sent us on social media, Twitter, X, Instagram, such and such, and gonna be discussing those a little bit. Third, second to last, we got March Madness Talk. I'll be talking you guys through my bracket, through why I picked who I picked. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk about the NFL offseason, what happened, and my thoughts and everything about that. So let's get right into Let's Talk About a Game. In today's segment of Let's Talk About a Game, I'm talking about the Cavs and the Pacers. Last night, the Cavs beat the Pacers 108-103. I'm talking about why it matters, why it happened, and everything. So why it happened, the Cavs' depth, along with their center, Jarrett Allen, and their guard, Caris LeVert, combining for 46 points. That's a season record for the two of them, and the Cavs pushed to narrowly defeat the Pacers in the last quarter, 108-103. The Cavs win despite Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, 2 superstar to-bes, Max Strus, and Dean Wade all being out with injury. So those are 4 key guys in the rotation, yet somehow the Cavs were able to pull off the W. Let's talk about the Pacers. Why did this game not fall through? Well, Tyrese Halliburton. It's been a rough March for him today. Not just today, but this entire month. And so he's been shooting 17% from the three-point line this whole month. Tyrese Halliburton, he's in a slump right now like he's never been. I think he mentioned in an interview, he's never been in a slump like this before. Just last night against the Cavs, 14 points, 12 assists, 6 rebounds, 4 of 14 shooting, 1 for 9 from the three-point line. Yeah, the slump continued for Tyrese Halliburton. He's an all-star to be. He's going to be great in this league. He's doing great as far as his assist numbers. But, yeah, this is a slump he's going to have to get past for sure. And, yeah, it matters. It matters because this is a potential playoff matchup in the NBA Eastern Conference playoffs. The Cavs right now are a 3rd seed just behind the Bucks by just a game or 2. And so the Pacers now down to the 7th seed. This could definitely be a playoff matchup that we see in the first round or even the second round. If the Pacers get past the play-in at this point, it would be a great series for sure. But yeah, I just want to talk about the game in general. It was a rough game for both teams, not just the Pacers who came out with the L, but the Cavs even had a worse game compared to some of their games. The Cavs just grabbed 30 rebounds. That's 14 below the team average this year. Obviously, Evan Mobley being a 7-footer at their power forward being out, that does not help their rebounding, but yeah, to grab 14 below their team average this year is going to hurt for sure. And it was a rough and ugly game, not just for the Cavs in rebounding, but the Pacers committing 24 fouls, the Cavs committing 18 of their own. And the Pacers, along with fouling a bunch, shot 46 from the field, 23% from the three-point line, and 62 from the free throw line. 62. One of the worst games this season from the free throw line. But despite all that, Caris LeVert, MVP of the game, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, nearly had a triple-double of his own. The runner-up, definitely Jarrett Allen, 23 points of his own, 9 rebounds. Caris LeVert really stepped up when Donovan Mitchell couldn't. Injuries are tough, but the Cavs just showed that they can fight through it. Are they a competitor in the Eastern Conference? Well, I think this game really shows that with all the controversy, they can still be red-hot Indiana Pacers who still have Pascal Siakam, a secondary star, who still have great players all around. They're a deep team in the Cavs despite being injury-prone, or not injury-prone, I guess. They're able to come out with a W here. It was a great game, although an ugly one. If you like defense, it was a good one. So, yeah, that's all I got for Let's Talk About a Game. Now, y'all's favorite segment, Ask DRSP. Today's Ask DRSP, y'all's favorite segment. I can get to all of the questions. I'll try to get to the ones that I missed next episode. But, yeah, let's get right into it. Nate at SciFan23 on Instagram. Which March Madness first seed least deserves a 1 seed? So, like, to answer this quickly, I think they all deserve a 1 seed. I think they're 1 seeds for a reason. UConn is the best team in the entire country. I think it was kind of undeniable as far as them being a 1 seed. They lost a game or two, obviously, that they shouldn't have, but they're a 1 seed. That's just not debatable, in my opinion. Houston was the other 1 seed. They're carried by amazing defense, and amazing might be an understatement there. They're one of the most handsy, aggressive defensive teams in the entire country. They're a 1 seed for a reason, again. Purdue, a 1 seed in the Midwest. Zach Edey and the entire team has just been on it this year. Losing the Big Ten tournament, losing that game to Wisconsin, of course, didn't help. But the Big Ten tournament is not March Madness, so they're a 1 seed for a reason. And then UNC in the West, the final 1 seed. They're, again, a really good NBA like level talent in a lot of their positions, and they are a 1 seed for a reason. Again, like I said, for all of them, they all deserve to be 1 seeds. These are the 4 best teams in the country, and they're 1 seeds as they should be. But if I had to pick one that I would get rid of as a 1 seed, I think Houston comes to mind because, yes, I know they are competitive and they are undeniably a 1 seed. But as far as the other 3, they're so good on both sides of the ball. And from what I've seen from Houston, there are some inconsistencies on the offensive side. And just seeing how bad they lost to Iowa State in the Big 12 finals, although beat up, they shouldn't have a problem defeating a 16 seed. But I don't know. There might have been a couple teams there that could have been, arguments as far as a 1 seed. I don't think Houston should have been lower than a 1 seed, but I do think there are other teams that could be an argument. So that's my take. Houston least deserving of a 1 seed, although I do admit they deserve it a lot. Next, who got ranked too high in March Madness? Also from Nate. Thank you for the question. Immediately coming to my mind, FAU and their game against Northwestern. It's going to be a good game, but I really thought FAU needed to win their tournament, their conference tournament, in order to be even in the tournament at all. The fact that they're an 8 seed, I thought it was a little too high. I'll be honest, but yeah, FAU, they could make a run. They could even make it to the round of 32 if they really, really fight. But obviously they're an 8 seed, so they have a good chance. I just think they might have got ranked a little too high. They're definitely on the lower end of 8 seeds. So next, also from Nate, 3 questions in a row. Should Indiana State have made the tournament? I was genuinely shocked that they didn't. Them, Providence, Seton Hall, and Princeton were 4 teams that I really thought could have made an argument for being in over Virginia, Colorado State, Boise State, even like Nebraska making it in as such a high seed was pretty crazy. Indiana State deserved more love. The Big East deserved more love as a conference because they're probably the first or second best conference in the entire country. And yeah, that's my take. They should have been in the tournament, Indiana State. Shout out to them. Now, switching sides a little bit. Maxine, at Maxine._Clark on Instagram. What's my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Warning, I didn't watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up, so if I get this completely wrong, my bad. But Leonardo, the blue dude, I think he has like a staff or something. I'm not sure what he has. He is so cool. Like that guy. He's an inspiration to you if you watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I had friends that did. I didn't grow up on the TMNT train, so I can't say for sure, but yeah, shout out Leonardo. The next question, top 5 sports movies from Avery on Instagram. Shout out to you. I have, in no order, Remember the Titans, which I think is my number 1, even though I said no order. Coach Carter, Miracle on Ice, fire movie, by the way. Rudy, and Hustle. Hustle's my kind of like new one that I think can be kind of like nostalgic, but also when you got like Anthony Edwards and Adam Sandler in the same movie, like that is a fire movie just waiting to happen. And so I think Hustle kind of just rounds out my top 5, but I will give a shout out to my honorable mention, Rocky. I think the second and the third movie in Rocky just kind of like bring it down, but shout out to the first Rocky movie because that's a fire movie. All right, next. My favorite podcast to listen to. I got 3-hour drives to school and back. So, and if you're coming home, every couple weekends, you gotta have a podcast to listen to. And so I have 3 here that are my like top 3 favorites, no doubt. First one that came to my mind, my go-to is Numbers on the Board. It's a basketball podcast with Kenny Beecham and 3 other dudes that are just awesome. They all talk about really good basketball topics. They give good takes. They round out like each segment really well. So shout out to those guys. Those are kind of my inspos in the podcast world. And then the Kenny Beecham pod, which is just Kenny's pod. Kenny's so cool. Talks about basketball, talks about his life. Super good pod. If you need to check out the Kenny Beecham pod, you should. And then Just Balling, which is a SROS ran podcast. It's on YouTube. I'll drop links in the description to all 3 of those podcasts because they're all sports. They're all great podcasts to listen to. Even if you're just getting into like basketball or sports in general, great podcasts. All right, here we got from Nathan.Winters70 on Instagram. He's got 2 questions for us. First, thoughts on Nick Saban retiring. So that was kind of not recent, but kind of new news as far as college football. Obviously, he's the GOAT. He's one of the GOATs as far as coaching. And people have been saying like it's a bad position for whoever is coming next to Alabama, whoever they end up hiring as far as some of their staff members. And I think the complete opposite. I think it's a great position. Nick Saban really built that program and really made it one of the most competitive programs in recent history, undeniably. And I think whoever is there next can kind of carry on that legacy as far as what he built. And yeah, as a Hawkeye fan, seeing that Caden Proctor, the 5-star offensive lineman who played there last year, who decommitted and committed to Iowa, now decommitted from Iowa. He is just back and forth. I'm sure he's going back to Alabama. So I think the Alabama team will still be good. Don't count them out just because Nick Saban's gone. They're still going to be really good. So that's my take on Alabama. And Nathan also asks who's my March Madness favorites. And I think I got like I could say all of the 1 seeds, and those would be like obviously the favorites. But I think outside of the 1 seeds, you cannot count out Kentucky because Rob Dillingham and the other NBA talents that they have, they have lottery pick after lottery pick. And are they a little dependent on guard play? Yes, but I think they can out-rebound some of the teams that are considered favorites. I think Kentucky is definitely a favorite. Duke, just like Kentucky, and all of the Blue Bloods, really, they have so much NBA-ready talent. They're going to be just as hungry as one of the teams trying to upset a team. So I think, yeah, Duke and Kentucky are definitely one of my favorites. And someone who might not be a favorite to like win it all, but someone who I just think deserves a lot of credit is Grand Canyon, because I think they can really make a deep run. They play like a Power 5 school. They play hard. They play really well on both sides of the ball. And I do think they're going to make it past the first round and maybe even the second or third round. Grand Canyon is a team I could legit see competing with UNC in the top of that bracket. And so yeah, just watch out for Grand Canyon and the Antelopes, because I think they're actually going to go on a run. And then that kind of leads into my next question from HTTPS_Will on Instagram. Shout out to you. Who wins March Madness and why is it FAU? That's funny because I was just talking about FAU earlier. If you're an FAU fan, I'm so sorry to tell you, there is absolutely no chance you're making it past the second or third round. You are not making it out of the round of 32, or you're not making it out of the Sweet 16 for sure. FAU obviously just went on a run a couple years ago. They're popular, a lot, like they're so well known. Yeah, but shout out Florida Atlantic, but they are not winning March Madness. So sorry to tell y'all FAU fans. And last but not least, our last question from Pology.ig on Instagram is Kevin Love a Hall of Famer? If y'all don't know who Kevin Love is, you should. You just haven't watched basketball. Kevin Love played with LeBron James in the Cavs. He played with the Heat most recently, starting his career in the as a part of the Timberwolves. He's a Hall of Famer to me. What he's done most recently as part of the Heat culture in Miami, he's been such a great locker room guy. He's been kind of a backbone to some of the playoff runs next to Jimmy Butler. What he did with LeBron as a part of the Cavs, he was dominant there, and LeBron and Kyrie are going to get all of the love for the Cavs' success as far as dethroning the Warriors and all of the finals appearances they have. Kevin Love is right there fighting with them, and so I think Kevin Love deserves more credit in that aspect. And yeah, Minnesota, he was even an MVP candidate for one of those years in Minnesota. He was a double-double machine. He's a hard worker, and yeah, he's a definition of like a borderline Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Famer in my eyes for sure. So that is the end of Ask DRSP. I hope you guys enjoyed. Now let's move on to my March Madness bracket review. All right, so March Madness season is upon us. It is March. It's time for the madness of March, and I'm gonna walk you guys through my bracket. I'm gonna show it up on the screen. You guys are gonna be able to see my Elite Eight, or my Final Four, or Final Two, I guess, in each conference, and then I'm gonna kind of walk you through some of my maybe more surprising picks. Obviously UConn over Stetson. I don't really need to explain why I chose UConn there. They're a juggernaut. And like Houston over Longwood, obviously they're kind of the same thing. But I do have a lot of upsets. I really liked some of the teams that were around like the 12 to 13 range. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to walk you through this. Let's start in the East with the juggernaut UConn. Obviously, I have them beating Stetson. But FAU versus Northwestern was a game that I think can go either way. And I've seen a lot of picks towards FAU, and I really trust Chris Collins and really trust him in coaching Northwestern to a W here. So I think Northwestern takes care of FAU. Right below that, SDSU and UAB. This is a game that could, again, go either way. But SDSU having like the elite power that they have as far as their starting five, and where they may be lacking depth and, you know, just everything that UAB does as far as a 12 seed, SDSU does better. So that's why I chose SDSU. I loved Yale since December when they were going on runs throughout the Ivy League. But it's so hard to pick them over Auburn here. They're pairing against Auburn. I think if they're paired against a different 4 seed, they might be able to like make a case for making a run. Like I would take Yale over Alabama, honestly. But yeah, I had to go Auburn there. BYU and Duquesne. Duquesne was ranked a little too high. BYU was ranked a little too low. I went BYU. Morehead State, they're not getting enough credit for how good they are, how possible this upset is, but it would just, in my opinion, take way too much. They're gonna have to really control the pace. They're gonna have to control rebounding. They're gonna have to shoot better. Like every aspect, they're gonna have to do almost perfect in order to come up with an upset. I think Illinois carries that momentum that they had from the Big Ten tournament, and I think they come up with a W there. Drake and Washington State, I'm a little worried. Washington State has so much defensive length, but I think Tucker DeVries is the real deal. I think he's really good at basketball, and that's no secret. So I'm going with Drake to pull off the upset, and I'm going with Iowa State over SDSU, South Dakota State, not San Diego State. Yeah, that's Iowa State's good. A lot of people are calling upset there. I think Iowa State's going to come out with it. But in the next round, I did, you seen that right, I did choose Drake over Iowa State, and then I chose BYU over Illinois. That's a game that could go either way, but again, BYU is better than a 6 seed. And then I have BYU over Drake. So I do have BYU going into the Elite Eight there. And then UConn and SDSU meeting. I have UConn over SDSU. SDSU, I think, is just going to barely squeeze by Auburn. Auburn has real Final Four possibilities. And I think SDSU, they're just not getting enough credit for how elite their starting five is, the kind of star power that they have. And yeah, so give me SDSU going into my Sweet 16, but give me UConn in my Elite Eight. And then on the other side of the bracket, moving on to the South. Houston over Longwood, that's pretty obvious for me. Yeah, I didn't even look into that one much. Nebraska and Texas A&M, one that I flipped for, like, kind of back and forth on. I went with Nebraska over Texas A&M because I think Nebraska's 3-point shooting and, like, the possibilities that they have if they shoot well, give them a good chance. If they shoot the ball well, they're going to go far in this tournament. But yeah, give me Nebraska over Texas A&M. And then I went James Madison over Wisconsin here. I think James Madison, they just got the dream matchup. They really wanted Wisconsin, I think. And everything James Madison does, like, really, really well, Wisconsin kind of lacks defensively, especially. And so, yeah, give me James Madison to pull off the upset there. Yep, so Duke I have over Vermont. Duke is one of those teams I mentioned as a competitor earlier in the podcast. Yeah, give me Duke for sure. NC State over Texas Tech. NC State was a team that I really loved going into this tournament, and I really like this matchup for them. I think NC State has the possibility to go far, but that's if they can get past Kentucky, who I have winning against Oakland here. I think that's kind of like not even going to be a no-biter. I think Kentucky's going to really dominate that matchup. And then I have Colorado winning the playing game. I have Colorado also being in Florida. I have so much faith in Cody Williams. I think he's a future NBA bucket getter. Give me Cody Williams in Colorado, upsetting Florida, who is really good, by the way. And Give me Marquette over Western Kentucky, and then Marquette over Colorado. Yep, I don't really have a lot to explain there. Marquette is good, and Marquette's probably one of the better 2 seeds in the entire tournament. So yeah, give me Marquette over Western Kentucky. So I got Houston, Duke, Kentucky, and Marquette moving on to my Sweet 16. I think those are all pretty obvious picks. JMU could give Duke a run for their money, but yeah, I really just had a hard time picking over Duke at any point in this entire bracket, really. But yeah, so I have Duke and Kentucky ending up beating Houston and Marquette respectively. And yeah, so yeah, and then as you guys can see, Kentucky and UConn, both teams that I have a lot of faith in. They're both going to go to the Final Four, in my opinion. And this is the top part of my bracket, so I really think UConn and Kentucky are really going to give a lot of troubles to those lower seeded teams that could make a run. So NC State, Vermont, James Madison, for example. Yeah, don't count them out at any point. But let's move on to the West and the Midwest, where I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these matchups, because there are some interesting ones here. So I wanted to talk about Purdue. I don't think they lose to a 16 seed again. I think Purdue is a pretty safe bet over Montana State or Grambling. And TCU is someone who I had a hard time voting out on. Obviously, this is a matchup that could go 50-50, could go either way. I had no idea who is going to have any advantage in this one. I think it's going to be a back and forth game. I think there are going to be a lot of lead changes. TCU is a little bit more consistent defensively, so I just had to go with them here. And then I went with Gonzaga and McNeese. I went with McNeese. They're a 12 seed again. I really think they can make a run here. And as you can see, I have them beating Samford, who I think is going to upset Kansas. We got news that Kansas has a lot of players sitting out with injury, especially in the first round. And that's going to be tough for them, especially how injury prone they were in 6 of the last 12 games. Yeah, give me Samford and McNeese, both upsetting the 4 and 5 seed. I'm really high on South Carolina. That's why I went with them over Oregon. Oregon, obviously, just like Kansas, is struggling with injuries, and they've shown kind of sparks of firepower, but I just had a really, really hard time convincing myself that they can beat South Carolina in this matchup. Creighton, Big East, really high on them. I think they can go far if they get the right matchups. But I don't count Creighton out on any matchup because they have the potential to go to the Final Four this year. As you can see, I have them losing in the next round, but we'll get to that in a minute. I have Texas beating UVA or CSU. I think that'll be CSU. I don't see UVA playing well in that game at all. But yeah, give me Texas over either of them, whoever ends up winning. And then give me Tennessee, who I think, although is a little bit too dependent on Dalton Connect, give me them over St. Peter's. I don't think St. Peter's is going to recreate that historic run they had in 21. So yeah, give me Tennessee in that matchup. Then in the next round, give me Purdue to continue in beating TCU. Give me McNeese, and then give me McNeese over Purdue. That's right. McNeese I have going to my Elite 8. Purdue, they're going to have some tough matchups, obviously, in either TCU or Utah State. And the fact that those are just a couple days apart, maybe, back-to-back potentially, yeah, give me McNeese to really just expose Purdue there. And that's a hot take. I know Purdue is expected to go far in a lot of people, further than the Elite 8 in most people's brackets. But give me McNeese to pull off in a crazy upset. Give me South Carolina over Creighton. These are two really, really good teams. If they didn't face each other, they would both go so far in this tournament. But I had to choose one or the other, and that's South Carolina. I know Creighton really has the potential to go far, as I was just finishing saying earlier. But yeah, give me South Carolina in that matchup. Give me Texas over Tennessee. A matchup I wasn't really expecting to have to think that hard about. I was like, oh, Tennessee is kind of an obvious one. They have Final Four potential. I'm choosing them over Texas. No. Tennessee is too dependent on the big men that they have. Are they going to be able to stretch the floor against a team like Texas with the length that they have? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Texas exposes Tennessee there, and I think Texas moves on to face South Carolina and eventually lose. As you guys can see, I think I'm really high on South Carolina, and I think the potential that they have is super high. I think they end up beating Texas, and they end up beating McNeese, and they're in my Final Four from the Midwest bracket, as you guys can see. You guys can see I have North Carolina making a little run here, as well as Michigan State. That Michigan State to Mississippi State game is going to be tough. Mississippi State has the potential to really just grab the attention of Michigan State and direct it in directions where Michigan State doesn't want their attention grabbed. And yeah, Tom Izzo's coaching is eventually what made me choose them over Mississippi State. And so yeah, I had to go with Michigan State there. It's a 50-50 game, as all of the 8-9 games are. But this next one is a little bit more obvious to me. I think St. Mary's is on the weaker side of 5 seeds. That's just my opinion. I think Grand Canyon is going to make a huge run in this tournament. They're going to show people why they are up there with the Power 5 schools. They could have been as high as an 8 seed, in my opinion. They play that well, and I think they beat both St. Mary's and the winner of the Alabama-Charleston game, who I have is Alabama, and they go on to face UNC in the Sweet 16. Grand Canyon, one of those teams that could make a really deep run, but could also get out in the first round, so it's a little bit risky choosing them in like a bracket competition. Yeah, give me Grand Canyon because I really am just that high on them. I have New Mexico going on to lose to Baylor, but New Mexico's one of those teams that I think is just so good, and when they can be on from 3-point range. But when you're that dependent on 3-point shooting, and yes, you shoot a lot of them if you're the Lobos of New Mexico, I think there's potential to like possibly lose to a really good rebounding team like Baylor. Shout out Torian Prince, if you know, you know. Yeah, I think Baylor exposes New Mexico. I think New Mexico probably shoots well in that game, but I think Baylor comes out on top. And then Long Beach State and Dayton. I have Long Beach State upsetting 2-seed Arizona. I don't know that Arizona will actually lose this game, but I do think Arizona will get out early. They lose to potential Dayton or Nevada. I think they definitely lose to a Baylor. I think that Big 12 definitely loses a member there in the first or second round. But yeah, I just had a feeling Long Beach State might upset Arizona, and I have them losing to Dayton, unfortunately. I would love Long Beach State to somehow make it to the Sweet 16. That would be hilarious. But yeah, then I have Baylor, North Carolina in my Elite 8 matchup from the West, and I have Baylor winning that one. I think it'll be a close game. Honestly, yeah, North Carolina has the potential to, but I think Baylor is just a really well-rounded team, and just had that feeling, man. So yeah, here's my Final Four and my championship predictions. Give me Kentucky over USC South Carolina, and give me UConn over Baylor. Those are going to be some fantastic games over in Arizona. Yeah, if Arizona does make the Final Four and they end up, pretty much being a home team, that would be crazy. But yeah, give me Baylor and South Carolina to lose those games, and then give me UConn and Kentucky in the finals, and give me UConn. They are a juggernaut. They're the best team in the country. I don't think there's a team that can consistently beat them at all. And yeah, this UConn team, they're going back to back. That's my prediction. 182 for the tiebreaker. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you guys have as your champion, or who you guys have some of your upsets in your brackets. That was my March Madness talk. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let's talk about the NFL offseason. All right, welcome to the NFL offseason rewind. My thoughts, my reactions. I wanted to jump right into the chaos that this NFL offseason has been. It's been one of the most active, one of the most entertaining off seasons in recent memory, and I'm excited to talk about it. I wanted to talk about first the running back position, because there are so many good running backs that just haven't been signed, that are still available. I just wanted to list some off. So the running backs that have been signed include Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, and Gus Edwards, along with many more. And then available, some highlighted names: Ezekiel Elliott, Damian Harris, Rashad Penny, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kareem Hunt, Cordero Patterson. This is crazy how stacked the running back position is, and how much is going on with the position right now. Most teams that were in the position signed running backs, and as they should have. Obviously Derrick Henry highlighting that, forming a super team in Baltimore, super offense I should say. Yeah, those read options with him and Lamar gonna be crazy. But yeah, Derrick Henry obviously the highlight. Saquon Barkley signed with the Eagles, a division rival, got a lot of attention for that. I think if I had to choose one underrated signing, Austin Eckler to the Commanders really opens up a lot for them as far as now being able to maybe focus quarterback in the draft or focus offensive weapons and maybe sign somebody to just play quarterback this year. And yeah, Austin Eckler going from one position in the Chargers to kind of a whole new position now in the Commanders. I think it's good for him. I think it's good for his career. And yeah, that's my underrated signing. If I had to choose between the available running backs right now, I would lean towards Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Maybe possibly unhappy with the position in Kansas City. He's winning Super Bowls though, so you know he has that experience. Damian Harris, of course, had those couple good years, and so yeah, this running back position has been crazy so far. I think it's still going to be continuing to be crazy as the offseason kind of wraps up. But yeah, it's a crazy offseason. It's one of the best in my entire life, and I wanted to mention an interesting position. Justin Fields signing to Pittsburgh. The Bears just gave the worst possible situation to Justin Fields that a young QB could start with. He had no weapons, he had no line, he had no chance to really prove himself. He was not given a crazy position like, some of the most elite quarterbacks were given. He had no one to really look up to as far as veterans, especially at his own position. I think with the bad coaching and the lack of help, he now is able to kind of restart his entire career. I hope he can learn everything he can from backing up Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, and I think it'll hopefully just expand his career to be at least decent and not just a flop. I really hope he can just get a fresh start, learn from Russell Wilson. And what I really don't want to happen is Russell Wilson to be starting in week 9 for Pittsburgh to be like, oh, okay, this guy really is mid, which he might be. I don't want Fields to just be promoted to starter and then him just be thrown into this position and eventually let go, because being thrown into a position right there sucks and it's hard. So yeah, we'll see what Pittsburgh decides to do. I think I'm going to just stick with them, and I'm going to see what they got. I think if everything goes right, they can make a push to possibly win the AFC North, even though the Ravens are just so revamped and so good. Yeah, if they really just dig deep, focus, I think the Steelers could definitely finish top 2 in the AFC North. And then next, I want to talk about Netflix's announcement of a twist to their quarterback series from last year, which if you didn't watch it, it was great. I think it's still on Netflix. They're doing a receiver documentary-like series featuring Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I am so pumped for this. I think I'm most excited to see George Kittle and Deebo Samuel both on it. If they are some sort of combined, if they're kind of combined into one thing, I think seeing a tight end was awesome. Being an Iowa fan, seeing George Kittle is awesome. I'm super excited to see them. I think Justin Jefferson is going to be someone who looking into is going to be super cool. And yeah, I'm super excited for this series. I'm super excited for the show. It's coming soon. It's coming this season. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'll talk more about it if some more news comes out. But yeah, let me know who you're most excited to see out of that list. And with that, y'all, it's going to be the outro. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, follow us on Twitter, on X, on Instagram. Subscribe to us here. I'll see you guys in the next podcast, hopefully with Singer. Roll the outro.